Well, Jay and Dave's Sports Bar returns for yet another episode, and I can't help but notice that my co-host Dave here is sporting an awesome, rather unique T-shirt. What is this in spirit of, my man?
Well, it's Uncle Yusuf, which is one of the greater mascots of all time, and Appalachian State's been wearing it on their helmets, which is pretty sick, and they are undefeated. And Eli Drinkwitz is their head coach.
I was going to say, why do we care about that, Dave?
Former Boise State assistant.
Yeah, Eli Drinkwitz got a rolling over there.
They are a wagon. They're very good on both sides of the ball. Because that winning at Louisiana, and that Louisiana's offense had been awesome.
Yep.
And that game was 17-7 last night. When both offenses are so good, you thought it was going to be high scoring, but that's college football for you. 19 play, 97-yard drive.
They lasted over 10 minutes.
10-11.
Unbelievable. That's like one of those drives that you just remember because it was something like you will rarely ever see.
Yeah,
with the game on the line.
Yeah, it was in the fourth quarter.
They took up almost the entire fourth quarter.
Yep. It
wasn't the game-winning drive, but it iced the game away.
They were up 10-7 when they went on that drive.
Went for it on fourth down a couple of times, and now you just have yet another former Boise State assistant doing big things.
Yep.
Not only as like an assistant coach at another job, but like as a head coach. It's very significant. He's like Justin Wilcox or the quarterback's coach that is actually starting to build some momentum. Justin over at Oregon State.
Jonathan Smith.
Jonathan Smith. Geez, thank you. Yeah.
They've been playing better.
They've been playing way better. They won last week. And UCLA. Washington State couldn't beat UCLA with a 32-point lead.
Montana State's playing well. If we're going FCS,
yep.
Chode.
Yeah, so super cool to see.
Yeah, so I'm wearing a shirt also because if people want to say it, Appalachian is not a state. So
that's fitting.
But honestly, like also representing it, like yes, they eventually could vie with Boise State for that berth, but they will always. If Boise State keeps winning, if they lose one, they'll probably still finish ahead of these guys. But I like that program just a lot because they're consistent.
They are,
and a lot of those teams that like no one's. I don't think they've ever dropped the next Boise State thing. So no one get bent out of shape. Trust me, don't. But
if anything though, does that like make you kind of think like, hey, maybe they kind of are?
Sure, because they've been so consistent, and they were in the FCS era. Now that they're FBS and they're well established,
it didn't take them very long to get adapted from FCS to FBS,
right?
And now they just continue to kind of win in their conference, which the Sun Belt, very similar to the WAC, you know.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with that, and that's the thing. That's kind of what I really liked about the program. When Scott Satterfield was there, and they would, just hammer the ball running, and they would use they'd run a lot of wheel routes, which for some reason
everybody loves wheel routes.
Whenever I play them,
everybody loves wheel routes.
On the NCAA games, they worked every time, and so that would be my offense. It would just be option and wheel routes. That's it.
Way back in the day when I played football, I was a slot receiver. I played H. I love the wheel route. Give that nice little fake on the air. I'm like, nope, going for the wheel.
Down the sideline.
Yeah. So, it is Hawaii week, though, for the Boise State football team. I wish they brought warmer temperatures with them, but they didn't. It has been freezing out on the blue for practice this week.
This morning when we went out there, holy crap. Like, I stood where there was some sunlight, and I was like, oh, yeah, this isn't too bad.
Yeah. Nope.
It's all relative.
It's just slightly better. Yeah. He is Dave Southern from The Athletic. I'm Jay Tuss, sports director over at KTVB. This is what I would have to say, though, and I didn't expect this at the beginning of the season, like, at all. But it might be the most exciting game left on Boise State's schedule. And I just threw this really super official Twitter poll out there earlier this week. I was surprised, like 900 people actually chimed in on this thing. But they said that this is the game that gets them most excited that's left on Boise State's schedule. Not BYU, not Utah State and Jordan Love and the hurry-up offense, not a trip to Fort Collins once again, where the last time they were there, they overcame a 28-3 deficit.
Yeah.
Was it 23-23, right?
It was 28-3.
Yeah, none of those games. It's Nick it's the fighting Nick Roloviches.
Yeah, the Rolovich.
The Rolovich.
Yeah, I mean, I remember before the season, I kind of wrote that they were, in my opinion, probably the biggest wild card in the conference. That if things fell the right way, they could be really dangerous.
Way to really go out there and predict that Nick Rolovich is a wild card.
But at least in terms of them being,
I know you're predicting his team.
Yeah,
I get it. I'm just messing with you.
And maybe that goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
You know, a guy that you can't predict, and you can't predict his team. And they do it in isolation, you know? So just like, if they're good, and all of a sudden people are like, oh, they're surprised, because not a lot of people are going to go out there and be watching that team until they started playing. So, yeah, I mean, it probably is the most interesting or the most exciting game left, because a little bit of the luster's lost off the BYU game, because Zach Wilson's probably, well, he won't play.
Yeah.
And the Utah State game is like, well, Utah State isn't quite the, you know, the beast they were last year. I still am going to say there's still a month and a half before that game.
Yeah.
They might go into it be playing well, for all we know. So it's a little early to say that. But this game is very exciting because of how good Hawaii's been. Are they truly for real to be able to come over here and play and win? For reals. And and you know, with that offense and stuff, that there is the potential for it.
Yeah. Okay. So there's times where we talk about the upset that's kind of looming maybe on Boise State's schedule.
Yes.
Because it seems like every year they have a game where, well, literally every year there's a game where they're a double-digit favorite and they get upset. I mean, that has happened every year during the Brian Harsin era. But there's also the game, it seems like it happens once a year, where Boise State's a double-digit underdog, and everybody like, okay, this is the game. This is the game. And then Boise State
crushes them.
Yeah. For me, if I'm going one way or the other, that's where I kind of feel, for whatever reason, with this game. I don't feel like it's the weird upset game. I feel like it's we should be on, you know, people should be on alert. Bronco Nation be on alert.
Yeah.
And then Boise State takes care of business. I don't know. I'm just kind of on that side of this one.
I think they've done a good job in recent years of when they play a style of football that is, say, one-dimensional for the most part.
They can take away a dimension.
They do a good job of negating that, which lends itself to them winning.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like even when they've played the option teams, go back to when New Mexico really ran it. They've had some success last couple of years, you know? And so I think about that with Hawaii. If they can negate that pass game a little bit, I think they have a good chance, and I think they have the pieces to do it with DeAndre Pierce coming back, with the guys they already have in there.
And that's another one. I want to bring that up really quick too, because we all were kind of in the same boat last week saying DeAndre is going to play against UNLV. I mean, like, here, that was not a prediction, by the way. That was like information we were told.
Right.
So we weren't making predictions. We were told that, you know, he was going to be back and everything was going to be great. And then he didn't play.
He suited up.
He was there. He warmed up. He looked every bit the part of a player that was going to go out there and play for Boise State against UNLV.
Right.
There was no indication of like a setback, nothing, and he didn't play. Now, that being said, they covered the spread last week. They won by 25 points. He is more important for this matchup.
Yes, because of his abilities, first of all, his communication they talk about being so good. The fact that adding him in there can make the defense more versatile, in that if you need to drop Tyreek Jones down to that nickel spot, if Kekala Kaniho is playing more corner in this game, because we're going to play 4 wide receiver sets almost constantly, then that lets you have a little more flexibility. So I think it's a perfect timing for him to come back, and you know, for this defense, you know, and what's going to be one of the biggest tests of the year. I know Harsin did say this week, this is going to be the hardest team we played all year.
Question.
Didn't he say that before, like they played Marshall?
Thank you you already answered my question.
They did, right?
I mean, I know that we've kind of, like, here's the deal. Man, it's an awesome soundbite. It looks great in print, and it sounds awesome on TV or over a podcast or whatever. But he literally said that I firmly believe is coach speak.
He literally said, every team we play this year, the next week is going to be the best team we've played, because we always get their A game. That's pretty much the same quote. He'll probably say that before they play Utah State.
Anybody. Maybe San Jose State. Anybody.
Hey, if we want to talk about quarterbacks named Love, Josh Love is the best one right now.
Actually, I was reading through quarterback rankings. What website?
Was it Pro Football Focus that did it?
Yes, it was.
It was some Twitter account that took it from PFF.
They list them all. And I think that they listed Josh Love, not Josh Love.
They had Ryan Agnew right ahead of.
Was it Josh Love, San Jose State?
Yeah.
Yeah, they listed him like as one. Is top 2?
No.
Bachmeier's 1. No.
No, I thought. Maybe I was looking at a different list.
Maybe.
Huh. Maybe he was up there. I know he was way ahead of Jordan Love. That's all.
He was way ahead of Jordan Love on this list. So anyway, that's just the point we're trying to make. The rest is irrelevant.
But anyway, Yeah, I mean, he did say it was going to be the hardest team they're going to play. And because of what they have done, it might be the hardest offense they've faced.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of, other than, honestly, if Utah State gets it clicking, which so far they've shown they haven't.
I was just looking this up. This offense will test Boise State in different ways than they've been tested so far this season. They run the run and shoot. I'm fascinated by Mountain West offenses, by the way. Like, I don't know if you pick out another conference, I don't know if there's a more eclectic variety of offenses that you'll find in a single given conference. I mean, 1 week you're preparing for the triple option, and 2 weeks later you're preparing for the run and shoot, and a month from now you're preparing for Utah State's. We're going to try to run 748,000 plays in a game.
And in between that, you have Wyoming's power running.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Like you might see a fullback. Like, it's just you will. The variety that you see in the Mountain West is crazy. And then you got Boise State shifts and motions. It's pretty awesome. But you do look at the run and shoot, and it'll be a different challenge for Boise State and what they've seen this year. There's no doubt. And I almost don't even know where to begin when you talk about this offense, because 7 of the top 11 receivers in the Mountain West will be playing on the blue this Saturday. 7 of the top 11,
and they're not all in Hawaii.
And they're not all they're not all Rainbow Warriors, but most of them are. And I mean, it's 5. What is it? 4 out of the 4 out of the 7. So they have slightly more than Boise State, who's extremely deep at wide receiver. They got a quarterback that probably has turned the ball over a little bit more than I would expect. I mean, last year he was really good, and then he got hurt in the middle of the season and turned it over a lot later in the season. I think the interesting thing for me in this game, and I know that Dave, you brought this up at interviews a few times, but is the pass rush. Yeah. This is a team that passes a lot, but it's not super easy to get to the quarterback.
Yeah, and I think that's the major difference. And I mean, we even saw it. We go back 12 years ago now when they were in that Sugar Bowl, and Georgia had those pass rushers and just killed them. Yeah, killed them. Right. I think that's kind of been stuck in people's mind about why there might be a ceiling for Hawaii, and there probably is, just in general. But do they have the sorts of guys that can protect their quarterbacks against athletes? So far, they've done a really good job of it. Yeah, we said it was Cole McDonald's only been sacked 5 times, and in Cordero, the backup, I think has been sacked 3.
Well, if you ask Chase Hatada, he'll give you the exact number.
Yeah, he was pretty good with that.
Wait, you looked that up then? Because Chase Hatada said that Cole McDonald had been sacked 6 times. Right. So you must have looked it up.
I had someone at Boise State look
there it is. Okay, so Cole McDonald's been sacked 5 times, and their backup, who has played much, much less than McDonald, has been sacked 3 times. And
he's more of a runner.
Not only do they have guys that can protect, but more often than not, in the run and shoot, you're making quick reads. You're not holding on to the football forever. And so while Boise State has the best pass rusher in the country, and I'll confidently say it because right now Curtis Weaver is playing on another level right now. He might not be able to make the greatest impact in the game because of how quickly they do get rid of the football. So you have to have cornerbacks and nickels and all those, basically the secondary really sticking to guys and hoping that he can make McDonald, instead of that split second when he wants to get rid of the ball, he has to hold on to it. And maybe that's the difference in, getting to that quarterback a couple of times on Saturday.
And with his position, with that stud end, what is important in that? Versatility, right? They talk about sometimes those guys drop back.
You'll see it.
I'm sure you'll see it in this game.
So I was on the Twitter machine today. Another website that I can't remember. I wish I could at the moment. But they send out this thing, and I've seen it before, and it's like crazy bold predictions for the college football weekend. And they'll pick like, oh yeah, Troy's going to upset Bama, or just like
something just ridiculous.
Yeah, or this week it was like Texas A&M is going to stun Bama, or Texas is going to upset Oklahoma by 2 touchdowns. And then at the bottom, after they pick like 5 games, there's even another disclaimer that basically, it doesn't say this, but it's basically saying, by the way, don't take this. We're not predicting this. This isn't credible. This is nothing. This is for clickbait. We want you to click here. I mean, that's basically what all that is. Okay,
and if they're right, then they can be like, look what we said.
Exactly.
If they're wrong,
that's what they're doing. Okay, so I don't think that, what I'm trying to say is I'm not going to go that far out in terms of like crazy bold predictions. But if I was going to write something like that, and one that I would think would be semi more realistic than some of the ones that they were just throwing at the,
At the dartboard?
I don't think that A&M is – maybe they do. I don't know. Maybe A&M upsets them, and then I'll – next week on the podcast I'll have to go back and apologize. But I think there's maybe more of a chance that Curtis Weaver winds up with a pick on Saturday than he does –
A sack?
A sack.
Wow. I mean, I like it.
Yeah.
I would give you plus something odds on that.
I mean, I saw him catch a ball this week, so just saying. That's
know.
all I need to know.
Because did he have a pick or was it a fumble against Washington State a couple years ago? Was that a fumble return or was that a pick?
It wasn't against Nevada here on homecoming when they were wearing the scripted
Oh, he did have a pick in that
Bronco
game.
logos?
He did have a pick in that game.
And they're wearing
the script Broncos homecoming helmets. Well, all right. See you guys later. We figured it all out.
All you need to know.
We unlocked.
All you need to know.
That was the skeleton key to everything. Now we get it. But yeah, no. I mean, I think it's like I just kind of mentioned. He'll probably drop back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know if they would put him on a running back or an inside receiver, or if they just drop him back in like a zone type of thing. But if they can, I wouldn't be stunned because he can get into lanes and stuff like that, and that's important in this one because he's throwing to a spot.
Well,
he can jump that.
And again, I think that's usually when you look over in his direction, you're thinking he's coming.
Right.
And maybe one time he doesn't, plays out perfectly.
Yeah.
Gosh, I really hope that I just get this one prediction right. Then we'll make a commercial out of it, and it'll be amazing.
I'd give you like plus 150.
Oh, well, that's it. Why wouldn't I take that?
Okay.
I feel like it's got to be more like plus like 350.
Oh, really?
Curtis has 9 sacks. He leads the country.
That's true.
This is a bold prediction.
Though he has 7 in 2 of those games. Right?
Quit devaluing it with realistic analysis.
As your personal bookmaker, I am.
Yeah. I think that another thing that you look at with this team, and I know it's kind of come up recently, talking about maybe a lack of turnovers, or they haven't had these huge quantity of turnovers.
They're going to get 6 tomorrow.
They're going to get 6 tomorrow because they come in bunches, as they say. That's how the cliche goes. I'm not bugged by it, man. Especially with the way that they're playing, it just doesn't bug me.
I think it was a bigger deal before about when it was an issue.
Mm-hmm.
But now that they've their goal was 30 turnovers and 30 sacks.
Yeah,
they've been getting a lot of those sacks.
Uh-huh.
And they talked about it was funny though. They're like, well, when you get those, you might create fumbles or tip balls. Well, they haven't done that yet.
They haven't done it.
But I don't think it's that big of a deal right now because and I know you've been asking it this week.
Yeah.
But it is a salient point is they haven't been giving up the big plays nearly as much as last season.
No, I mean, it's way down. And ever since the middle of the second quarter of Florida State, big plays. I mean, knock on wood. Sorry, everybody.
It's glass.
It is glass. Yeah. It's actually like a fiberglass, part of our new set here at KTVB that we broadcast from. I mean, I don't know. I just think when you look at the whole thing, during the Harsin era, if big plays are up, interceptions are up. Mm-hmm. And it's because maybe guys are taking gambles and they might lose a gamble and give up a big play. But when big plays are down, interceptions are down. But you're finding that sound, solid defense. I think that this is the way that you kind of want it to work too. I mean, there were times here where cornerbacks would go out and get gaudy numbers of interceptions.
Right.
That's not necessarily happening right now, and it's more like the safeties that are going over and creating these interceptions or turnovers.
Well, wasn't it? It was 15 when Darian Thompson and Dante were going back and forth.
Yeah.
But also, you remember games that year.
They give up some big plays.
New Mexico, Utah State.
Exactly.
A lot of big plays.
So I think that I'll take the trade-off. Like if I'm Boise State, I take that trade-off because if you're not allowing big plays, you're not so desperate for game-changing turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to roll the dice as much. And if you're a tough defense to move the ball against, I mean, maybe that's all you need. And what is the difference? I guess you could say maybe some field position that you might sacrifice, but if you get a sack on third down, what's the difference between a sack and an interception on third down? What's the difference between a sack and a forced fumble on third down?
Wasn't it Nawahine's pick on fourth? Where some people were like, "Oh, he should have knocked it down."
Yeah,
probably doesn't really matter in that situation.
That didn't really matter,
But
like I said, you're sacrificing some field position, but when you're a really good defense and you put opposing offenses in third and long, and you get a sack on third down, and you keep knocking them back, it's just not. If you're not giving up big plays, you're less desperate to go out and create those huge game-changing turnovers. So it doesn't concern me as much.
And it doesn't frustrate you if you're not getting
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, like, has there been a game this year? I mean, think about this. There's been games in the past where you're watching Boise State play and you're like, man, they need a turnover right now. They need it. Outside of like just like the very first part of the Florida State game that was getting a little out of hand.
And maybe Marshall?
Maybe Marshall, just because you had to swing a little bit of momentum or something. But there just hasn't ever really been that point where it's like you're sitting on the edge of your seat being like, oh, Boise State needs a turnover right now. Like, they got to get this thing.
Yeah.
Just because they've been getting off the field. They're one of the best third down defenses in the country. Yep. They get into the red zone. They're now one of the better defenses at limiting opposing offenses to scoring touchdowns in the red zone. I mean, less than 50% of the time our opponents getting inside the red zone and scoring touchdowns. We know because of Boise State's offense, that's an incredibly low number. You'll take that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So
and like you said, like the third down stuff. I mean, it kind of reminds me. I don't know how to say it.
Say it.
It's not quite the same thing, but like how like an Air Force offense works. It's methodical, not necessarily.
Actually, it's a pretty good.
You'll occasionally get that big play, and when it is, it's really, really important.
Yeah,
it's kind of the way that defense has been working.
That is applicable, David.
You know, that's the way I see it.
That is a astute point there, David.
Yeah,
I like that.
We're crossing teams, crossing sides of the ball, but it all makes sense.
I think that's actually a really good analogy or a good way to look at it. And I mean, how frustrating can it be to play against Air Force's offense sometimes? Right. If I'm a defense, I would love for somebody to view me that way.
Exactly. Right. And other offenses might get that way. They'll press, even if that press doesn't turn into a turnover, it might turn into a failed third down.
I forget. So the bingo board that we send out to all of our wonderful viewers and or listeners at home,
it's only for the gold members.
It is. So go ahead and subscribe. Actually, go ahead and rate our podcast.
Yeah. If you're listening on iTunes or wherever, give us 5 stars. Or if you don't, explain yourselves and then send us your home address, and we'll come and explain why it should be 5 stars.
Send over the muscle. We'll contact somebody else for that. But what was I getting at? On the bingo boards at home. Do we have to talk about Hank Bachmeier getting hit? I can't remember on those.
I don't think I mentioned him in my story, which might have been the first time after a game where I didn't mention that.
Okay, so Hank Bachmeier was okay. He didn't get hit that much, so
he got sacked once.
We can move along from that.
It's like a safety blitz or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, he just had a ho-hum 299.
Yeah,
true freshman. So that's where he's at. So he can throw for 299 and not even make the game.
That's what I've always thought about it was like. After he set the bar so high, game one, anything else after that has been like, I mean.
Well, did he throw for 400? No.
I mean,
not in the game story.
By his standard, that was good. But you know,
he was barely above average. He's averaging 297 on the season. He threw for 299, so barely above average. I say that tongue in cheek for those of you that aren't watching on YouTube and only listening to us on one of the many platforms you can listen to.
And they put it
J and Dave Sports Bar.
And they put in Chase. And he threw that nice touchdown to Shakir. I mean, like, and I think we tried to make it obvious, and I think it's become that way in certain facets. I think if you watch, obviously Hank Bachmeier should be the starter and is the starter, but they have a really good backup quarterback.
They do.
And I think that's a really unique, good situation for them to be in, that if anything happens, or even if they just need a change of pace or they need to get a little bit of a spark, they have that option, and they haven't always had that.
Yeah, heck, man, helmets can fall off and stuff like that. Right. I mean, like you're really not concerned for any prolonged amount of time if Chase Cord has to come in and help out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, especially that pass, because we all thought about him as a runner, but he's had some nice touchdown passes this season, and I was kind of impressed by that. I've been more impressed, of course, with what Hank does as a true freshman, but
I wouldn't be surprised if now that you feel like everything's kind of settling into how you can see it playing out the rest of the season, playing time wise, that maybe you do see a few more of those specific Chase Cord type packages that we saw last year with Brett Rippon. I mean, he comes in and he maybe does run the ball, or
sure. And Harsin even said it, but like 2 days before the game, I asked him about it, and he said they could probably keep Cord in for a little longer.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they did. And he finished it with a touchdown pass. You know what I mean? So, I mean, like, sometimes Harsin likes to play coy, but sometimes he just puts it out there and, he kind of lets you know what's going to happen, and that's what did.
I think one thing that offensively, quarterback's playing pretty well right now. You know, again, knock on fiberglass. That Hank hasn't turned the ball over in quite some time.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
It's been a couple games. I'll just leave it there because every time I tweet out the exact number of passes he's gone without a pick,
it's like 2, and then it's like 2 more.
Yeah, inevitably somebody attacks me and says that I jinxed him, and then it doesn't matter what he throws. It doesn't matter what he throws a pick on the next pass attempt or 100 pass attempts later. Somebody will find that tweet and be like, "Oh, see, you jinxed him." Hank Bachmeier is going to throw another pick this season. I mean, it's going to happen. Well, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe not.
We need to stop with that stuff.
I agree.
I hate it.
But so the quarterbacks are playing well. The receivers are dynamic. They're playing awesome. I loved the decision near the end of the first half. So did you, for many reasons, I'm sure. For Boise State to put their foot on the gas, and they said 32 seconds left. We're 88 yards from our own end zone. No, we're going to go try to put points on the board. They operated in that 32-second window where they picked up 53 yards, only used one timeout, set up a 52-yard field goal. I mean, that was beautifully executed. From Khalil Shakir making guys miss, to Hank Bachmeier finding the right guys at the right time, to Joel Velasquez bombing a 52-yard field goal that probably would have been good from 62. That was awesome. And I loved what Khalil said, after the game. He said that Coach Harsin says that, when we smell blood, we're gonna go,
Yeah.
And that's exactly the way that they operated on that drive.
And it ended with that field goal, which when we talked to Velasquez today, I don't know if I've ever seen him more relaxed or engaged in an interview than today.
And good for
on him.
Joel Velasquez.
He was, as awesome as the 2 wide receivers were, I think, Hightower and Shakir in particular in that game, as good as they were, I was like, my MVP for that game probably was Joel Velasquez, especially considering how he responded to being probably the most maligned guy on that roster in terms of people being like, well, that guy's not, because it's so obvious.
Yeah, I think
in that position
through the first 4 games of the season, so not counting UNLV for just a second, defense played great at times, offense played great at times. Hightower played great on special teams at times.
Special teams, yes.
But still, I would say kind of the Joel Velasquez element to special teams kind of
was subpar.
Had you wondering if they might make a move, might make a change. And whatever happened in the bye week, he responded.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not talking about just field goal kicking or just punting. We're talking about a kid that did both at a very high level during the UNLV game. And
he had to punt 8 times because the offense at times wasn't getting those first downs.
A little stagnant. Yeah. So it was... That's encouraging.
Yeah.
Even if he's not the MVP of the game, Dave, that is a huge takeaway from the game of saying, okay, if we get into closer games right now later in the season, if you're Boise State, then we'll be okay because we have a guy that can help us flip field position, kick a 50-yard field goal if we need it. And by the way, that's kind of what we found out today is the distance.
Yeah, he was very open about it. And he said, didn't he say he feels good up to 65?
Yeah. I think 60, 65, what did he say? Something like that?
I thought he said 65.
Yeah. I think that means that...
I forget what it was, but it was more than 60, and I was kind of like, oh, all right.
I think what that means, too, is I can give my team a chance up to 60.
Yeah.
It's
not like he's automatic.
90% of my 60-yard field goals are going through. That doesn't happen in the NFL.
Right.
I think that he thinks, yes, up to 60, I can give him a chance.
God, it'd be so funny to see that. I just want to see it.
Yeah.
It'd probably be an end of a half.
Game-ending scenario or something?
No, not game-ending.
Now we're really talking.
It depends on when it would be.
Why couldn't Khalil go out of bounds just 3 yards earlier? I mean, now 55?
I was going to say...
that's a bomb.
It would have to be to win the Cotton Bowl to erase some of the bad kicking memories here.
You literally just wipe them out of the memories of Bronco Nation.
I was just trying to think about
how great would that be?
What sort of a kick would do that?
Yeah, that's one of them.
Or to win the Mountain West Championship and go to that bowl game. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just
making
saying.
PATs at the Mountain West. What? Is the thing here? Just kidding.
That's good.
Sorry.
Oh, hey,
couldn't help myself.
As someone who recently experienced a game where they missed a extra point and then lost in overtime, I understand.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah. Oh, Colorado. Good for Joel Velasquez. Very good for Joel Velasquez.
My Vegas weekend would have been better if they had pulled it out. They say don't bet with your heart.
Yeah.
I thought I was doing both with my head and my heart in that game. No.
I just noticed.
Would have been more successful. It would have been a good weekend if I had that.
I just noticed that as we were flying out of Las Vegas, those lights were just a little brighter than when we arrived.
There was a gold tinge to it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. If you kind of squinted your eyes, some of them even spelled out Dave Southern.
Thank you. said, thank you, Dave. Like, what? Come again.
That'd be so awesome if that ever happened. Like, for somebody that did go there and even drop more money, like, just a big thank you sign.
My dad told me one time he was on a flight out, and usually the flight out of Vegas isn't as lively as the one going in.
Mm-hmm.
God, the one I was on, coming from here, full of Boise State fans, it was the loudest damn flight I've ever been on in my life. I swear to God. But on the way back, a little more subdued. Though, I mean, the team won and everything.
You bring that up, man. The crowd down there was awesome.
So, if Boise State had crushed UNLV,
Mm-hmm.
that was going to be my game story about why this place, Las Vegas, is Boise State's home away from home. They've now gone 7 times since, so if we count the 2010 season, so in 10 years, they've gone 7 times, 7-0. And they've more than doubled the other team's score.
Yeah.
And they get so many fans. I mean, like, I know some people are saying, maybe a third of the fans. I think probably half the fans there were Boise State fans.
Darn close.
And they're behind the Boise State bench. And Khalil said after the game, it felt like a home game.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I mean, I think that's part of what makes that game so interesting for us, is because that's what it feels like, you know?
Yeah.
And
I'm so bummed, though, that they're not going to play in Las Vegas again.
Yeah.
For 4 years?
For 4 years.
That is so sad.
I mean, at least that next one, it'll be like, NFL stadium.
Reality, yeah, that's cool. But reality's starting to set in, because even when it was like, Boise State's not going to play in Las Vegas again for a while, you'd always say like, maybe the bowl game. But this is the last year of that being a possibility.
Yes, also true. And they're playing them right now. They're playing themselves out of playing in that bowl game.
Yeah,
so.
In a good way.
In a good way, yes.
In a good way. So, yeah, I don't know. I know that I should respect Hawaii. I think that Nick Rolovich deserves a ton of respect and a ton of credit, because he is helping make Mountain West teams interesting. He brings this personality.
Yes.
You know, what he does at Mountain West Media Days, from Britney Spears to
palm reader to the Elvis impersonator.
All this. Like, this is great for the conference. And I know it might seem like these simple little quirky moves, but guess what? It's during the dog days of summer.
Yes.
National media pick it up. At the very least, you're there. You're national media. So, he's great for the conference. Whether win or lose, people around this league should appreciate him, because he's bringing something to this league.
And I think that's what Hawaii needs, because, like I said, they're isolated. They have a unique system to draw some attention to that and negate some of the, things that might not enable them to recruit like others. And there's stuff like that. There's an energy there. Yep. You know what I mean? To that,
which is
program,
important.
which you need.
Are they still operating with financial deficiencies?
I don't think they're as dire as they used to be.
Okay. I mean, there's a while they weren't getting cost of attendance.
That's why, and that one also. I mean, that's why June left, because of the facilities.
Yeah.
Though actually, I think since he left, they've really done a lot of good things there. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't think it's great for them, like you said, with the cost of attendance stuff. But I think it's a little better.
My point is if you want to point at anybody in the conference, I mean, people will say Boise State, works with this competitive advantage, and it's hard to argue that, because they do get more payout from TV. Colorado State has a brand new stadium, which it's gorgeous. Yeah, they've struggled recently, or definitely haven't ascended like you figured they might. Out in Hawaii, Nick Rolovich is operating, is having to compete against schools that have cost of attendance, and he still doesn't. I believe, right? I don't think they still have it.
I don't know. That's a great question.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure.
We'll double check it.
They didn't, but
I definitely know they didn't when everybody else was getting it.
And he, I think they had no staff turnover this year. That's big
for them.
That's big for them. Before last season, they had a bunch of guys transfer out. This year, they did not have that. And now that system, this is the second year that they really kind of have truly had it be that classic June would throw offense. And I think that works.
Yeah.
I think it has, and it will probably maintain a level of success that will enable them to be consistently competing for a bowl game. And I think that, I didn't get to talk to him this week, but every time I see Nick Rolovich, I do mention my favorite game maybe I've ever watched in my life. 2001, playing against undefeated BYU in Honolulu. Timmy Chang was hurt, so Rolovich was the starter. And they scored 70 on BYU. He threw 8 touchdowns.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Not as many as Anthony Gordon for Washington State, but
500 yards, 8 touchdowns. I think Chad Owens, their kick returner, had 2 return touchdowns. Rollo told me a story about one of their wide receiver. I think he's on the staff now, Craig Stutzman. Scored a touchdown. He punted it into the end zone.
Real quick, Dave, I'm going back through this and looking. I mean, it wasn't in 2015. As recently as 2015, there were questions of whether Hawaii was going to drop their football program or not.
Right. Yeah.
It looks like their athletes are getting some type of cost of attendance stipend, but it doesn't look like it's anywhere near what maybe a Boise State athlete would get.
Yeah. And so there you go.
Yeah.
You know, and honestly, and I mean this with genuinely. I think Boise State fans can appreciate doing more with less.
Yep.
Because that was always the company line here.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
So if, from afar you can admire when schools are actually able to do what Hawaii's doing.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
It should be a good game. Should be a fun game. I think it'll be competitive throughout most of it. Again, this is another game where I would say Boise State does win by 2 touchdowns. I think they cover. It's at home. I like their chances. I think that this defense is finding a groove. Sonatane Louis playing at an incredibly high level. Same with Curtis Weaver. I feel like David Moa is really starting to come on and get comfortable again.
Because he told us, I think he told us through 4 games they were putting him on a snap count limit. And and he said he was after 4 games. They said he wasn't on that. So,
but you could just tell
the last one was their
5th game. Yeah, you could just tell the way he's playing. I mean, he really does seem to be playing with more confidence, more fluidity. I think the best is yet to come for that defensive line. Chase Hatada is about as reliable as you can get. They're adding DeAndre Pierce back to it. We've yet to see this team peak. And while some people will say maybe that's a bad thing, you're 5-0 and you've yet to peak. I'll say that I personally that's an awesome thing because it means you still have upward mobility, and that's pretty amazing. I think you're gonna have to get closer to being that team you think you can be this week to knock off Hawaii, especially as we progress through October and go, see Boise State go on the road against BYU and stuff like that. But when you haven't peaked and you're 5-0, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
And it's hard to see where the landmine's going to be.
It is
the rest of the way now. I mean that BYU one, man. I kept circling that one. Then all of a sudden, it's like, who knows? But honestly,
it's never the game. It's never the game that you say, hey, maybe this is the one.
Right.
This is the one. Last year, even San Diego State, Boise State struggled with San Diego State at times, but they're like, starting running backs out. They're just struggling on offense. They're not the same this year. You'd want to go a little crazier. No, maybe it's still Wyoming.
Right. Right.
Nope. San Diego State.
Right.
So BYU, Hawaii, those are all predictable ones. Maybe like a one that we need to be looking at closely is San Jose State. Quiet game. I know it makes you laugh. I get it. Quiet game. A team that just stays on. They just manage the heck out of game. Have you seen them play this year?
Yeah, I watched them play New
Mexico. They don't get behind the sticks. They just grind away at you. Don't do anything too crazy good. Force some turnovers.
You got to love them putting a giant patch of grass over their seats on one side.
Hilarious. Yeah. Well, as we wrap this thing up, I know the College of Idaho gets back into action. They travel out on the road. They take on Carroll. The Yotes have been fantastic this year. We'll see if Coach Mo can continue to keep that thing rolling. They've looked outstanding, and right now they're definitely the team to be in their conference. There's no doubt about it. Idaho State at home versus North Dakota. We'll see if they can continue to roar, maybe, right?
Well, they roared early on last week and then lost by 39. So.
I didn't see how bad it was.
Yeah.
Whoops.
It was looking good for a bit there. It was like, they might. Oh, no.
Yeah. Idaho out on the road at Portland State. We'll see how that one turns out. The Vandals, they've been competitive. I don't know.
Portland State's been
all over the board.
All over the place.
Yeah. So we'll see which team shows up there. But again, Boise State on the blue Saturday, 8:15 kickoff. They're honoring the Fiesta Bowl team. They're doing a little bit of a tribute to Dan Paul. Should be an awesome game. What can we expect over at the Athletic real quick, Dave?
Read my story on Cody Von Appen, the Boise State graduate assistant on defense. His dad was Hawaii's head coach from 96 to 98. And when there was a time during spring break where they went swimming and he almost drowned and Hawaii's kicker died, saving his life.
I'd say bring the tissues, but that almost doesn't do that story justice because it's a real topic, man. Yeah. It's a serious topic.
Yeah. So Boise State facing Hawaii is emotional for him, and I'm gonna do a little bit of things for Friday. I got my live Q&A, but also on Friday, just Boise State back in its early days recruited Hawaii when it maybe wasn't even a state. And there's a lot of guys that there's a pretty good bond there.
Yeah, check that out at The Athletic. I'll leave you with this. KTV, we have the Bronco Roundup Game Day show live from 5 to 5:30 on Channel 7. Then we're going to do more or less a digital-only option. You can also watch it on our Dot 2 24/7 from 7 to 8 o'clock on Saturday. But we got a ton of stuff coming your way, and we look forward to yet another game on the blue, David. Boom. All right, we'll see you next week here on Jay and Dave Sports Bar. I promise the drinks aren't getting the best of me. Once again, serving the Idaho sports community.